All right, guys, we are back on the GSMC Hockey Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcasting Network. We're going to be talking about the Oilers and Canucks. We're going to be giving a little bit preview going into the game 6, where I'm very excited to see how this one plays out. We talked about it earlier. I'll reiterate what I said. The Edmonton Oilers need to kind of win this. Need to go far in the Stanley Cup, at least. You have a lot of expectations on these forwards. A lot of great forwards on this Edmonton Oilers team. We talked about Leon Draisaitl. We talked about Connor McDavid. They have Evander Kane, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Zach Hyman. They're getting great production out of their top 6 forward. For them, it's now or never is what I'm looking at, basically. You have a lot of money tied into Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. Leon Draisaitl coming up onto a contract year. I don't expect him to go anywhere, really. I think he's an Oiler for the rest of his life, at least as long as Connor McDavid's on this team. Those two seem like they love playing with each other, really love motivating each other through all the trials and tribulations this team does go through. But when it comes down to the Edmonton Oilers, I expect them to not even be close to the same core next year as they are this year right now. That's why I think that they need to win this postseason series, at least going in, and at least have a little bit of momentum with this team. If you go to a conference final, I think you can talk to guys like, hey, this core is fun. Come back at a little bit less money, because this is what I'm looking at right now. This team has we'll round it up. We'll say $10 million in cap space in this offseason. $10 million. I don't even know how they get into the situation. It's Darnell Nurse. That's how they get into the situation. They have $10 million with, you ready for this one, guys? Dylan Holloway, Connor Brown, Sam Carrick, Warren Foegele, Sam Gagner, Adam Henrique, Matthias Janmark, Corey Perry, Philip Broberg, and Vincent Desharnais, and Calvin Pickard. 11... Was that 11 or was that 16? 11. 11 current players on your squad are going into free agency. And you only have $9 million. You have $10 million to resign them. Put those puzzles together for me. I don't understand how they do this one. I don't understand how they wiggle out this one. Their problem, they're paying 3 guys the exact same thing to do pretty much the exact same thing. Zach Hyman, Evander Kane, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins are all getting a little bit over $5 million. You have $21 million in Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. So there goes $40 million basically of your cap space. Then, when you're getting into the defenseman side of things, this is where it really all goes. You have $9.25 million in Darnell Nurse. Now that's a bad contract. $9.25 million in a guy that can't score and a guy that can't really defend. Darnell Nurse has had a absolute stinker of a postseason, let me tell you. He has been bad. He is not a good player. And you have $9.25 million in him. What's it with Edmonton Oilers and overpaying defensemen? Adam Larson. Ring a bell? Why do they love overpaying the number one defenseman on their team who isn't a number one defenseman on any other team competing for Stanley Cup, competing for the Stanley Cup in the NHL? How do you get $9.25 million tied up in Darnell Nurse and you're getting no production out of him from the playoffs? He also has a non-movable clause. He's stuck there in Edmonton. You have $7.5 million in your goalies in Jack Campbell and Stuart Skinner. Jack Campbell has not done a thing in Edmonton. That was a horrible free agency signing. That was $5 million. You have $2.6 million in Stuart Skinner. That's $7.6 million in goalies. $25 million in your defensemen. $40 million in your forwards. That adds up to $76 million. You know what the cap hit is? It's $87 million. $10 million for 11 players on your team. That's hard to that's so hard to navigate. So let's really look at what they're going to do. $11 million. Dylan Holloway needs to stay. That's an RFA, 22 years old. He's a great player. He'll stay. I think he'll stay for around $1.5 million. Warren Foegele has proved to be a great addition to the third line on this team. I think they want to keep him. If they can keep him at $2.5 million, that'd be great. I say 1 by 2.5, 2 by 2.5. See how long Leon Draisaitl and Connor McDavid stay on this team, that's how long he'll be on this team for, I think. Sam Gagner needs to go. Adam Henrique needs to go. 34 years old for both of them. Matthias Jarmark, he's been used as a fourth-line forward. He can go. You can find somebody to do that in the draft, in your prospect pool, in free agency. That's a replaceable guy. You don't need a 31-year-old on the fourth line. Corey Perry, 39 years old. He's already gone, basically. He has a foot out the door. He's not staying around. He's retiring for sure. Then your defensemen. You have 5 defensemen right now. Cody Cece's still getting paid $3.25 million. That's not a good contract either. Matthias Ekholm, $6 million. That's probably their best defenseman contract, but it's still not great. He's taking up about 7% of your cap hit, Matthias Ekholm, and he's getting the second best production out of any of your defensemen besides Evan Bouchard. So you need one more defenseman. You probably are looking at your prospect pool for the one more defenseman. I can't name any Edmonton prospects off the top of my head that can fill that role, but I bet that they have somebody in the AHL kind of ready and waiting. Actually, I can definitely look really quick to give you guys maybe whatever. But yeah, they need one more defenseman. They're going to need a lot of forwards. That's what's scaring me. They have 7 forwards on contract through next year. You have 5 more pieces, probably 7 more pieces because you want 14 forwards on your team at any point. That's very scary. You need to go out and get at least 6 guys. Go out and get at least 6 guys in a free agency where you only have $9 million to work with. That's going to be a very hard thing to navigate. That's why I say, and this brings me all the way back to the point that the Edmonton Oilers really need to get it done in this Game 6, and they really need to get it done in this Game 7. They need to have guys take the pay cut. They need to have guys. They need to see guys playing better on the power play. They need better 5-on-5 production. You're paying Ryan Nugent-Hopkins $5 million to just play on the power play, basically. You're paying Evander Kane $5 million to just play 5-on-5, basically. It's weird how they're using these contracts. I don't think that I feel like there's a lot of bad contracts on this team, and we're seeing that come to fruition in this offseason. The Edmonton Oilers have a very, very interesting team, a very interesting position where you have the 2 best players in the world, and then you have a fantastic young defenseman in Evan Bouchard, and that's it. And that takes you to the second round. Does it take you any further? Took you to the Western Conference Finals last year. Does it take you any further? It doesn't. They're getting production in the playoffs, but they're not going far enough. That it's hard because what more do you want them to do, really, the Edmonton Oilers? What more do you want them to do? They put guys around Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. You're getting Zach Hyman, Evander Kane, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. All these guys are playing well. And then you have what you think are great defenseman contracts. You think Darnell Nurse is going to be a great defenseman. You think Matthias Ekholm is going to be a great defenseman. You think Evan Bouchard is going to be a great defenseman. And then you also, on top of all that, Jack Campbell, $5 million in the offseason. You went out and grabbed a goaltender who played amazing in Toronto the last 2 years. But no, it's not happening. You're not getting. It's not working. On paper, it should. On paper, it should. We talk about this a lot with a lot of teams in a lot of different sports. On paper, this should work. Why is it not working? I don't think that. I don't think that they did anything wrong. I just think that this core can't do it. So I think that they're going to need to blow it up if they do lose this Game 6. They can't do that is the problem. I think that they're just going to be stuck in kind of purgatory where they're going to make the first round next year, get eliminated. Leon Draisaitl might want to move after that. Then Connor McDavid is going to want to move in the next offseason in his 29-year-old season. This is the greatest player in the world that you're looking at, and he might leave you. Sound familiar, Edmonton Oilers fans? Wayne Gretzky did the same thing. But Wayne Gretzky won you 4 cups before he left. And he won 7 hearts, 8 hearts for the Oilers. So I think you take that a lot more than you take the Connor McDavid production. It's going to be interesting to see when it's all said and done for Connor McDavid, when you look back at his Edmonton Oiler tenure, and it's going to be, you're going to look at it as a little bit of a failure in Edmonton. if he stays in Edmonton, especially if this core doesn't get it done ever, I'm speaking out of hypotheticals. They're only down one game in the series. They can win the next two easily. They could play the Stars or the Avs, and they can be the better team. And then you're in a cup final, and you're looking at this entirely differently. But how many times can you definitively say that that you're watching how many times has the undisputed best player in their sport, undisputed for more than 5 years in a row now, best player in their sport, hasn't won a trophy in their sport, hasn't won the championship in their sport? Well, let's look at it. Shohei Ohtani's only been dominating for 2 years in the MLB. I don't think that you can put him on the standard of Connor McDavid at all. Deep into MLB, maybe Barry Bonds. I think Barry Bonds would probably be the best look at this, but he has just such an asterisk-sized career that you don't use him as an example. I can't really name any. Is what I'm getting at here. I can't name many that have been the undisputed greatest player in their sport for over a 5-year span now, and not had any production when it comes to winning the sport. It's so weird. Once again, I could be talking all of this just to say in a couple of days when we get back on Monday at the GSMC Hockey Podcast, oh, the Oilers won Game 6, now they're playing a Game 7, and they might win a Game 7, and then right. I could be wrong about all of this, and we're going to look at the core a lot differently. But right now, in the present moment, I'm looking at this core, and I'm a little bit disappointed. So that'll do it. That'll wrap it up for our fourth and penultimate segment of this Friday night GSMC Hockey Podcast. When I get back, we'll be talking about the games that are ongoing right now, give a little bit of a dive into what we've been watching, what the action's been, and what it means for the playoffs currently. Thank you for tuning in now.